The wind whispered through the narrow streets of Millbrook, a small village where hope seemed to fade like the evening light. Thomas Baker stood by the window, his weathered hands gripping a cold cup of tea. At 42, he felt the weight of failure pressing down on his shoulders like an invisible burden. 3 months had passed since the factory closed, 30 years of loyal service, and now nothing. His calloused hands, once strong and steady, now trembled slightly when he remembered the day they told him he was no longer needed. The machinery he knew better than his own reflection had replaced him with younger, cheaper workers. Emily, his wife, worked double shifts at the local hospital. She was a nurse, her kindness as constant as her determination. Every evening she would return home, her blue uniform slightly wrinkled, her eyes tired but never defeated. She would kiss Thomas on the cheek, squeeze his hand, and whisper, "We'll be okay." Their 2 children, Jack and Lucy, were caught between childhood innocence and the harsh reality of their family's struggle. Jack, 15, had started taking odd jobs after school. Newspapers, lawn mowing, helping old Mrs. Thompson with her groceries, anything to help. Lucy, just 10, would draw pictures of their family with big smiles, seemingly unaware of the tension that hung in their small cottage. Thomas remembered his father's words, "A man provides. A man takes care of his family." Those words echoed in his mind like a painful reminder of his current failure. He had applied to every job in town, the hardware store, the garage, even the local supermarket. Each rejection was another nail in the coffin of his self-respect. One particularly cold morning, Thomas walked through the village. The same streets he had known his entire life now felt like a maze of disappointment. Posters of job advertisements mocked him from shop windows. Young men and women walked past, their futures seemingly bright and promising. At the community bulletin board, he saw multiple job listings. Most required computer skills or qualifications he didn't have. The world was changing, and Thomas felt left behind. His skills, decades of factory work, understanding machinery, working with his hands, suddenly seemed obsolete. The local pub was his occasional refuge. Men like him gathered there, sharing stories of lost jobs and uncertain futures. Some had found work in nearby cities, others remained hopeful, and some had simply given up. Thomas didn't want to be in the last category. His savings were dwindling. Each bill was a battle, each expense a careful calculation. Emily never complained, but Thomas could see the worry in her eyes when she balanced their monthly budget. She had always been the practical one, the glue that held their family together. Jack's determination impressed Thomas the most. The boy would wake up early, help his mother prepare breakfast, then rush to school. After classes, he would work, bringing home small amounts of money. "Every little bit helps, Dad," he would say with a maturity beyond his years. Lucy remained their beacon of hope. Her drawings, her laughter, her innocent questions about the future reminded Thomas that life was more than just financial struggles. She would draw their family, sometimes with Thomas working, sometimes with big question marks representing his jobless state. As evening approached, Thomas sat in his favorite armchair. The room was quiet, except for the ticking of an old wall clock, a wedding gift from years ago. He thought about his skills, his experience, his worth. The world seemed to be moving faster than he could catch up, but something inside him refused to break. A small ember of hope continued to burn. He knew he wasn't finished. He knew his story wasn't over. Generations of Baker men had faced challenges, and they had always found a way forward. Emily entered the room, placing a warm hand on his shoulder. "We'll figure this out," she said softly. Her touch was a reminder that he wasn't alone. Their love, their family's unity, was stronger than any economic challenge. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. Another day was ending in Millbrook. For Thomas Baker, it was another day of waiting, hoping, and believing that something would change. And somewhere deep inside, he knew it would. The first chapter of his unexpected journey was just beginning. The rain fell steadily that afternoon, creating a rhythmic tap dance on the village's narrow streets. Thomas walked with his head down, his weathered jacket protecting him from the cold drizzle. Another day of job hunting, another day of disappointment. Near the community center, an old building with faded red bricks, he noticed an elderly man struggling with a heavy box. Something inside Thomas, perhaps his ingrained sense of helpfulness, made him approach. "Let me help you, sir," he called out. The man looked up. Robert Williams, a retired military veteran, had kind eyes that seemed to hold decades of stories. His weathered face broke into a warm smile. "Thank you, young man," he said, setting down the box. As they arranged some chairs inside the community center, Robert began talking. He saw something in Thomas, a mixture of defeated hope and untapped potential. "What do you do?" he asked casually. Thomas explained his background. 30 years in factory work, recently unemployed, struggling to find his place in a changing world. Robert listened carefully, his experienced ears catching the pain between Thomas's words. "We need people like you," Robert said suddenly. "People with real-world experience who can teach younger generations." He explained the center's struggle to help unemployed youth learn practical skills. Most instructors came with academic backgrounds, but they lacked the practical knowledge Thomas possessed. A proposition emerged. Would Thomas be interested in teaching vocational skills, part-time work, modest pay, but an opportunity to make a difference? For the first time in months, Thomas felt a tiny spark of hope ignite within him. That evening at home, he shared the news with Emily. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "This is perfect," she said, squeezing his hand. Jack, overhearing the conversation, looked at his father with renewed respect. The next week, Thomas began his first workshop. Young people between 16 and 25 sat before him, some looking lost, others looking angry about being unemployed. Thomas understood their feelings intimately. He started by sharing his own story. No fancy PowerPoint presentations, no complicated jargon, just honest, straightforward experiences about working, learning, and adapting. He talked about machinery, problem-solving, teamwork, skills that textbooks couldn't teach. The students were surprised. Here was a man who hadn't finished high school, yet he spoke with more wisdom than most of their previous instructors. He demonstrated how to use tools, explained workshop safety, shared industry secrets learned over decades. One young man, named Peter, particularly connected with Thomas. Struggling with dyslexia and feeling hopeless about his future, he found inspiration in Thomas's journey. "If you can restart your life," Peter said one day, "maybe I can too." Thomas discovered something unexpected. He loved teaching. Each session brought new energy. He wasn't just instructing, he was connecting, understanding, and genuinely helping people find their path. Robert watched from the sidelines, seeing a transformation. Thomas, who had walked into the center feeling defeated, was now walking out with purpose. The community center was becoming more than a building. It was becoming a place of hope. Emily noticed changes at home. Thomas spoke more, laughed more. The weight of unemployment was slowly lifting. He would come home and share stories about his students, their challenges and their small victories. Jack started helping his father prepare for workshops, printing materials, organizing tools. A new dynamic was forming in their family. Everyone contributing, everyone supporting each other. The modest paycheck wasn't much, but it wasn't about the money anymore. Thomas had rediscovered his value. He wasn't just a former factory worker. He was a mentor, a guide, someone who could help shape young lives. As weeks passed, more students joined his workshops. Word spread about the honest, practical instructor who understood real-world challenges. The community center became a beacon of hope for struggling youth. One rainy afternoon, much like the day he met Robert, Thomas realized something profound. His unemployment wasn't an ending, it was a beginning, a chance to reinvent himself, to find a new purpose. The glimmer of hope had become a steady, warming light. The community center began to buzz with energy. Thomas's workshops were no longer just training sessions. They had become a lifeline for many struggling young people in Millbrook. Peter, the young man with dyslexia, became Thomas's first success story. After months of guidance, he secured a job at a local automotive workshop. His confidence had transformed from timid uncertainty to genuine pride. When he brought his first paycheck to show Thomas, tears welled in both their eyes. More students followed. Sarah, a single mother struggling to support her child, learned computer skills and basic administrative work. Mark, a former dropout, discovered his talent for electrical repairs. Each success was a small victory that rippled through the community. Jack started helping his father more frequently. What began as simple assistance became a true partnership. He would help set up workshops, organize materials, and even assist in teaching some basic skills. Thomas watched with pride as his son developed leadership qualities and compassion. Local businesses started taking notice. Mr. Harrison, who owned the largest hardware store in town, approached Thomas with an offer. "We need skilled workers," he explained. "Your students are exactly what we're looking for." A partnership formed that would change everything. Emily continued her nursing shifts, but now she spoke about Thomas with a different tone. No longer was he the defeated man who sat by the window. He had become a community leader, a beacon of hope for those struggling to find their way. The workshops expanded. Thomas developed programs targeting different skill levels. Some focused on basics, job skills, others on specific trades. He brought in guest speakers, local mechanics, carpenters, electricians, who shared real-world experiences. Local businesses began offering internships. The community center transformed from a simple building to a bridge between unemployed youth and potential employers. Thomas's network grew, and with it the hope of entire families. Lucy, Thomas's younger daughter, became proud of her father in a way she hadn't been before. She would draw pictures of him teaching, surrounded by smiling students. Her school friends would ask about her hero dad, who helped people find jobs. The local newspaper ran a story about Thomas's work. "From factory worker to community hero," the headline read. It wasn't just about finding jobs, it was about restoring dignity and hope to those who had lost it. Funding became a challenge, but the community rallied. Local businesses, former students, and community members started contributing. Small donations, volunteer hours, and support came from unexpected places. Robert, the veteran who had first given Thomas a chance, watched with quiet satisfaction. He had seen something in Thomas that others had missed: resilience, compassion, and the ability to transform pain into purpose. Winter came, bringing new challenges, but the community center remained a warm place of opportunity. Thomas's programs expanded to include winter skill training, how to winterize homes, basic car maintenance, indoor repair skills. Peter began mentoring younger students. Mark started a small electrical repair business. Sarah secured a steady administrative job. Each success story became a testament to Thomas's approach: practical skills, genuine care, and unwavering belief in potential. Jack's involvement grew. He began developing a simple computer program to track student progress and job placements. His father's journey had inspired him to think differently about education and opportunity. The family dynamics changed. Dinner conversations were no longer about financial struggles, but about the lives Thomas and his team were changing. Emily would share stories from the hospital, Thomas would share stories from the center, and the children would listen in wonder. One evening, as Thomas sat reviewing workshop plans, he realized something profound. His unemployment hadn't been a failure. It had been a path to his true calling. He wasn't just teaching skills, he was rebuilding community, one person at a time. The connections he was building went far beyond job training. They were about hope, dignity, and the belief that everyone deserves a chance to rebuild their life. Millbrook was changing, one workshop at a time. And at the center of this transformation was Thomas Baker, a man who had found his purpose by helping others find theirs. The letter arrived on a cold Tuesday morning. Thomas's hands trembled as he read the official document from the local council. Funding for the community center would be cut by 60%. Everything he had built was about to crumble. Emily found him sitting in silence, the letter spread on the kitchen table. Her nursing shift had just ended, and she could see the worry etched deep in her husband's face. "We'll figure this out," she said, her voice steady and strong. Jack overheard the conversation. At 16, he was no longer the child who needed protection. He understood the stakes. "Dad," he said firmly, "we're not giving up." The determination in his voice reminded Thomas of himself years ago. The community center faced its biggest challenge yet. Years of hard work, countless success stories, and hope were now threatened by budget cuts. Local government officials claimed they needed to redistribute funds to other projects. Thomas called Robert his mentor and friend. The old veteran listened carefully as Thomas explained the situation. "Sometimes," Robert said, "our greatest challenges become our greatest opportunities." Those words stuck in Thomas's mind. He began reaching out to former students. Peter, now working at the automotive shop, offered to help. Mark, who had started his electrical repair business, promised support. Sarah, now working in administration, began collecting testimonials from people whose lives had been changed. Local businesses that had benefited from the center's training programs started to take notice. Mr. Harrison from the hardware store called a meeting of local entrepreneurs. They realized how much the community center had contributed to local employment. The fight became about more than just saving a building. It was about preserving hope for hundreds of young people who had found direction through Thomas's programs. Each student had a story. Each story was a powerful argument against the funding cuts. Emily suggested a community fundraiser. "We'll show them how much this center means," she said. Jack began designing posters, creating social media campaigns. The entire family worked together, turning their kitchen into a planning headquarters. Local media picked up the story. The Our newspaper ran a front-page article about the potential closure of the community center. Interviews with former students showed the center's true impact. Lives transformed, careers started, hope restored. Thomas felt overwhelmed. Some nights, he would wake up worried about the future. But each morning, Emily would remind him of how far they had come. Her strength became his anchor. The first fundraising event was a community dinner. Local restaurants donated food. Former students shared their success stories. People who had never met before began connecting, sharing their experiences of struggle and hope. Lucy made colorful posters. Her childlike drawings of people getting jobs became a symbol of the center's mission. People were touched by her simple, powerful representation of hope. Weeks of uncertainty followed. The local council meetings became battlegrounds of words and emotions. Thomas and his supporters presented data, personal stories, and economic arguments about the center's value. Jack surprised everyone. He created a detailed presentation showing how the center saved the community money by reducing unemployment and supporting local businesses. His technical skills and passion impressed even the most skeptical council members. Peter organized a group of former students to speak at council meetings. Each shared how the center had changed their life. Some spoke about finding jobs, others about regaining their self-respect. Their collective voice became powerful. The local radio station began daily segments about the community center's work. More and more people learned about Thomas's mission. Support grew from a small group to an entire community movement. Emily continued her nursing shifts, but now she was also a key strategist. Her organizational skills and compassion helped coordinate the fundraising efforts. She became the quiet force behind their fight. As weeks passed, the community united. What had started as a potential closure became a celebration of community strength. Thomas realized that the challenge was bringing people together in ways he never expected. The fight was far from over, but hope remained strong. Thomas looked at his family, Emily's determination, Jack's intelligence, Lucy's innocent hope, and knew they would face this challenge together. The community center's future hung in the balance, but its spirit remained unbroken. The council meeting room was packed. People stood in every corner, the air thick with anticipation. Thomas sat quietly, his family beside him, Emily's hand holding his, Jack standing tall, Lucy clutching a drawing of hope. When the council announced their decision, the room erupted. The community center would not only be saved, but would receive additional funding. More than that, they wanted Thomas to lead an expanded program helping unemployed individuals across 3 neighboring towns. Tears rolled down Thomas's cheeks. Not tears of weakness, but tears of triumph. Years of struggle, months of uncertainty, had led to this moment. His journey from a defeated factory worker to a community leader was complete. Peter, his first success story, stood up and spoke. He shared how Thomas had believed in him when no one else did, how a man with dyslexia found his path through practical skills and genuine support. His words touched everyone's heart. The fundraiser had been more than just about money. It became a movement of hope. Local businesses, former students, community members, everyone had contributed. Some gave money, some gave time, some shared their stories. Jack's technical skills had played a crucial role. His data presentations and social media campaigns had shown the center's true economic impact. Universities began showing interest in his work, offering potential scholarships. Emily continued her nursing, but now she also worked part-time at the community center. Her organizational skills helped expand their training programs. Together, she and Thomas were transforming lives, one workshop at a time. The new program would support not just young people, but anyone struggling to find their place in a changing job market. Older workers, single parents, people with disabilities, everyone would have a chance to rebuild their skills and confidence. Local businesses committed to providing more internships. Mr. Harrison from the hardware store promised to hire at least 5 graduates from the program each year. Other entrepreneurs followed his lead, creating a network of opportunity. Thomas's workshops expanded. He developed programs for digital skills, trades, and personal development. Each course was practical, focusing on real-world abilities that employers needed. His teaching style remained the same, honest, straightforward, compassionate. Lucy continued drawing. Her artwork, once simple childhood sketches, now documented the center's journey. Local cafes began displaying her drawings, showing the human side of job training and community support. Robert, the veteran who had first given Thomas a chance, watched with pride. He had seen potential in a defeated man and helped him find his true calling. Their friendship had become a symbol of mentorship and hope. The community center transformed. It was no longer just a building, but a symbol of resilience. People came from different towns to attend workshops, to share their stories, to find hope. Jack started developing an online platform to extend the center's reach. He wanted to help people who couldn't physically attend workshops. His vision was to create digital training that could reach anyone with an internet connection. Emily's colleagues at the hospital began referring patients struggling with unemployment or career changes. The center became a holistic support system, understanding that job training was about more than just skills. Thomas reflected on his journey. From feeling worthless and unemployed to becoming a community leader, his path had been unexpected. He realized that his greatest job was not about earning money, but about lifting others. The first graduation ceremony of the expanded program was emotional. Hundreds of people, from teenagers to older workers, received certificates. Each story was different, but the common thread was hope. Peter was now helping manage workshop logistics. Mark had expanded his electrical business and hired 2 graduates. Sarah had become a coordinator, helping design training programs. Their success was a testament to Thomas's approach. As winter approached, the community center glowed with warmth and possibility. Thomas looked around at the lives being transformed, at his family supporting him, at the hope they had created together. He understood now that unemployment was not an ending, but a beginning, a chance to reinvent, to grow, to support others. His journey had shown that with compassion, practical skills, and community support, anything was possible. The Baker family had not just survived, they had created a legacy of hope.